Apparently everyone's talking about Smash right now, but I don't really have time for that since I'm busy fangirling over the Valkyria Chronicles 4 demo. I played the original game during the PS3 era, and it's been one of my favorite games ever since. I was very pleased about the PC port, and I also enjoyed the portable entries to the series. Unfortunately, the sequels didn't have the same appeal to me as the original, but it looks like Valkyria Chronicles 4 is finally going back to its original style of gameplay. As of this video, the Valkyria Chronicles 4 demo was released yesterday for the Switch, PS4, and Xbox One. No PC demo, it seems. I tried the PS4 and Switch games just to see what the differences are, but I don't own an Xbox One, so unfortunately I can't take a look at that one at the moment. In this video, we're going to take a look at the Valkyria Chronicles 4 demo and see how it compares to the original game of the series, because that's what it feels closest to gameplay-wise. And we're also going to take a look at the differences between the PS4 and Switch versions as well. I'm going to clearly mark the footage so you know which version you're looking at. The demo covers the first 2 chapters of the story and introduces the cast and setting nicely. And you even get to transfer the save game over to the full version once it's released this fall, so that's a pretty cool thing. Apparently there's a demo exclusive skirmish map too. There's only 2, so I guess it must be one of those. In case you aren't familiar with the series, Valkyria Chronicles is an alternate reality World War II turn-based strategy RPG with real-time third-party elements and watercolor-esque style visuals. That's a lot of things right there. It looks beautiful, it contains a lot of strategy, and the storyline, I find, manages to come across as very human, unlike with some other war-themed games. You know the ones I'm talking about, the ones which are all like, hell yeah, let's kill the enemy! I can't stand those. Let's start with the gameplay. Valkyria Chronicles 4 feels like the original game, basically. It doesn't feel like the PSP games at all, which to me is a good thing. I get what they were trying to do with VC2 and 3, and I enjoyed them, but to me this is where it's at. If you know your way around the original game, then VC4 is going to feel immediately comfortable. One thing to note is that the accept and cancel buttons are swapped between the PS4 and Switch versions. It's actually not that big of a deal to me since that's always been a thing with Nintendo, but you know, it's easy enough to just mix it up occasionally. One of the first things I noticed with this game is that the tanks only use 1 AP point instead of 2. That kind of surprised me. And there's also the addition of Grenadiers. I'm not sure if this is a class of 1, or if there will be more characters available other than Riley, but we'll see, I guess. It's nice how she can attack units from far away, though to be honest, I've yet to see her hit something during the enemy's turn. Team attacks are handled slightly different in Valkyria Chronicles 4. Before, only classes with infinite ammo on their main weapon could join in on your attack if you stood close to them, so that means scouts, shock troopers, and engineers. Tanks could join in too, but only with their Gatling gun or machine gun. It's different now though. I've seen snipers and tanks assist with their primary weapons. And yes, it does use up ammo. In one occasion I had one of the main characters, Kai, shoot someone almost point blank with her sniper rifle, which kind of surprised me. And another time I shot at a tank with a Lancer and Claude joined in by shooting around from his tank's turret. I think this is a good change, but it's something you want to be aware of. It's easy to accidentally waste a sniper's last bullet. I had that happen, but thankfully I had enough AP left to get an engineer over to restock their ammo. The classes are back to how they were in the first game, no more branching off into various subclasses like in the PSP games. I was never a fan of that, especially since some of the classes were just unrealistic. I mean, who brings a sword to a gunfight? One of Valkyria Chronicles' strengths is how it was grounded to reality despite the fantasy elements it contains, and thankfully they went that route with Valkyria Chronicles 4 again. And let's talk about the graphics now, which are definitely an improvement. Just so you know, I haven't played the PS4 or Xbox One versions of the original game, but I do have the PC port, so that's what I'm comparing it to. The pencil-like textures are a bit more sophisticated, like there's more detail in them, and the other textures in general just look nicer. And there seems to be a subtle improvement with the color palette too. It's not necessarily more vibrant, but overall I think the game ends up looking slightly more atmospheric. It's like the game is a bit more creative with its color palette, I guess. There's a lot of little details that have been polished up too, like potential cut-ins and the headshot celebration poses. It's all just a bit nicer looking. The PS4 version of VC4 is definitely better looking than the Switch version, and I'm going to guess that the Xbox One version is up to par with the PS4 version. The Switch is running at a noticeably lower resolution, and a lot of the textures look noticeably worse. The Switch also doesn't seem to do anisotropic filtering, if that's how you pronounce it, so a lot of the textures look even worse the shallower the viewing angle is. Of course, this is easiest to see on the floor. If you look into the distance, some of the subtle atmospheric fog seems to be absent too. Even the cutscenes aren't as nice because of the pixelated backgrounds. The Switch version is still a good looking game though. Things like the colors are fine, and if you're playing in handheld mode or planning to play mostly in handheld mode, then a lot of these issues just aren't quite so apparent. But on a TV or monitor it does look a bit PS3-ish, pixely and grainy with a distinct lack of detail. All versions seem to be running at 30 FPS, which is kind of too bad. Not sure if a PS4 Pro helps in that regard or not. Maybe someone in the comments can help confirm that. Still, 30 FPS is fine, you really don't need lightning quick reflexes to play the game, and I'll just get the PC version in the end anyways. Now here's something I found a bit strange. For some reason the Switch version doesn't have an option for Japanese voiceovers. I don't really have a problem with the English ones, but I do like to switch back and forth to get a taste of both English and Japanese voices. Hopefully it's just a demo thing, it would be really unfortunate not to have a choice. Now let's talk about the story a little. The main character is Claude Wallace, who is the leader of Squad E and rides around in a tank called the Hafen. Ooh, gratuitous German. We'll get into that in a second. He's friends with Raz, a shock trooper, and Kai, a sniper. Claude is an interesting protagonist in that he isn't some shonen anime spec MC with more guts than brains. He's pretty smart and also soft-hearted, a bit like Welkin in that regard. Raz is a bit hot-headed and seems like the guy who'd rather charge ahead instead of thinking things through properly. In some ways he comes across a bit like a bully, but he ends up being the butt of the joke a lot of times. And Kai seems like the most grounded of the characters and acting as the straight man on occasion. Now this might be something some people might consider spoilers, but since it's talked about in the demo, I'll talk about it here. After the first mission or so, another main character is introduced called Riley. Through their interactions, you can tell that the group all came from the same town of Hafen and were childhood friends. She seems to really dislike Claude for running away of something, and it's also revealed that Kai's name is actually Lena. The demo basically just starts getting into some of the backstories and then it ends, so I guess you just have to play the actual game to find out more. I actually like that the game doesn't bother to tell you everything about the characters' backstories right away. It feels more real that way. You know, like imagine if the game just awkwardly decides to explain everything right in the beginning. You know, all the character interactions can be a bit mysterious sometimes just because you don't know what their pasts were like. But then you start piecing things together and it starts making sense, and I think that's a really cool thing. I think the story looks like it has potential to have the same amount of depth of the first game. And since the demo only goes up to the second chapter, there's a lot of stuff not talked about yet. For example, I don't think anyone's brought up Darksons yet, despite one of the main characters being one. I'm sure that'll be a topic in the story too. Oh yeah, and let's talk about that German though. So the main characters are all from a Gallian town or city called Hafen, and they called their tank after it too. But Hafen just means port or harbor in English. They haven't shown the town yet, and I'm slightly wondering if the town isn't even on the water. Can you imagine that? And the fact that the tank is called Hafen too? No thanks. That's not how the language works. So far, this is the only thing in the game I dislike. Anyway, enough of that. That's the demo of Valkyria Chronicles 4 for the PS4 and Switch. I had a ton of fun playing it, and I actually got really into it. And then this is the end of the demo screen came up, and I'm like, oh geez, now I have to wait till fall. But it'll be worth it. Let me know what you guys think of the demo if you tried it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.